Hey guys, Magenta is back here today again with another Future Cup Buddyfight deck profile. This time featuring my Guardians deck. So in case you're not informed, Guardians is a new flag. Heavenly Guardians, Divine Guardians, it's a new flag from a new extra booster, which allows you to use cards with from different worlds, but you have to use cards with Guardians, so it's kind of similar to 100 Demons. However, you start with 12 life and 1 gauge, while instead of usual 10 life and 2 gauge. So yeah, so this deck built it pretty aggro-ish because since this deck is gonna be you can sustain longer because of your life gain, so why not just be aggro and just push damage to your opponent so you can end the fight quickly. Yep, so yeah, let's go into the deck profile. So it's a Buddy monster, size 0 monster, Blitz Envoy, Shiny Bell, Brave Machine / Guardians attribute, counteract, put this card from the field and a card from the drop zone on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, put a top card of your deck into your gauge. 2k power, 1 crit, 2k defense, so stats not too bad. However, the skill is amazing. Basically, you can call it into your center and you can act as your extra attack for your next generation Gao formation. So how this deck works is basically you run as little cards as you can in your drop zone, usually 0 because you have cards to return them into your deck, and as the number of cards in the drop zone decreases, right, your cards have their abilities unlocked. Yeah. So yeah. Okay, moving on to the size 2s. We run 4 copies of Perpetual Envoy Elixir. Yeah. So what does it do? Size 2 monster from Star Dragon World. 5k power, 2 crits, 3k defense. Call cost, pay 1 gauge, put a top card of the deck into this card. So his skill, all cards on your field gets plus 2k power. Then you have 2 or less cards in your drop zone, all cards on your field gets 1 crit, move, and soul guard. So basically how this works is, if you call this, you buff all the cards on your field. So basically you will benefit from having an additional card in your center because that gets power and crit buff as well. Yep. So essentially you can see it as 7k power with 3 crits because he buffs himself as well. And if you have other things, of course that will be even greater plus. 4 copies because it's really good, especially and it's really aggressive, so you can push out damage really quickly. So yeah, 4 copies of that. And then we have 2 copies of Pure White Envoy Withia, Dungeon World Night Guardians card. Size 2 monster, pay 1 gauge, you have 5 or less card in the drop zone, this card gets penetrate. When this card's attack, if you have Gate of Pardon Forgiven on your field, or you have 3 or less cards in the drop zone, this card gets double attack. 6k power, 2 crit, 2k defense, so the stats are pretty bad. However, what it does is basically you have the double attack penetrate if you have 3 or less cards in your drop zone, or if you have the set spell on the field. Yeah, so 2 copies will do. Anyway, the main size 2 you want to be calling out is your Elixir. So moving on to the size 1s, I run 1 copy of Aeon's Envoy Soma. So what does he do? When this card enters the field, you may put up to 2 cards from a drop zone onto the bottom of your deck in any order. So put up to means you can put or you can not put. I mean, either way you can call it with no cards in the drop zone anyway. So after doing that, let's say you have 2 cards and you can put 2 cards. So after doing that, if you have 3 or less cards in your drop zone, you can put the top card of your deck into your gauge, or you can gain 1 life. 4k power, 1 crit, 3k defense, New Dragon / Guardians card. And 1 copy of Deity Age Envoy Michaelis. Dragon World Dungeon World dual card. So it's a new card, new concept, dual card. Yeah. Dungeon World, Dragon World. It's a Knights / Dragon Knight Guardian. So triple attribute, 3k power, 2 crits, 1k defense. When this card enters the field, you have an item equipped. Put 3 cards from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, destroy a monster on your opponent's field. Basically, this one is you have to put 3. This one is you don't have to put 3. So either way, these two are really flexible cards. Just run 1 each because they're not really important, especially since we're going aggro, so destroying monsters not that important, and I mean when you need the gauge it's gonna be important, but yeah, not key card. So moving on, 4 copies of Soup Envoy Angelus. So what does this card do? Blessing Pierce. When this card enters the field, you have Gate of Pardon, Forgiven on your field, or if you have 1 or less card in your drop zone, draw a card. Basically free draw. 3k power and 1k defense and 2 crits. Superhero Guardians card. Pretty good because basically in aggro decks you want to keep refilling your hand, so basically it's a free monster and basically guarantees that you have another card. Yeah, just 4 copies because draw is really important. Alright, moving on. We run 2 copies of Deity Dragon Envoy Muriel. So Knight/Guardians card. Size 1 monster, 4k power, 1 crit, 3k defense. Core cost of pay 1 gauge. When this card attacks, you have 3 or less cards in your drop zone. For this turn, this card gets double attack. When this card attacks and destroys your opponent's monster, you gain 1 life. So basically you can use it in 2 ways. You can just aggro, do 2 damage to the face, or you can kill your opponent's monsters and you can gain life off of it. So depending on the situation you're in, this card is really handy. And of course, when you combo it with our trusty size 2 boy over here, basically this card becomes a 2 crit double attacker, so can do up to 4 damage. Yeah, now you understand why this deck can be easily aggro to the max. So yeah, 2 copies of this because we have the need for other cards. 2 copies of Justice Envoy Angel Frill. So what does she do? Super Heroine/Guardians card. When a Super Heroine or Guardians monster other than this card enters the field, put a soul from a card on your opponent's field into his or her drop zone. When this card attacks, you have 5 or less cards in your drop zone, gain 1 life. Move. Size 1, 2k power, 2 crits, 1k defense. So basically this is your Soul Breaker, good against like your Esther decks and whatever, do Jaeger decks. Yeah, however its stats are trash, but I mean you can gain life and you can tank a hit for you because it has move. So pretty good. 2 copies. And then lastly, for size 1s, we have 4 copies of Sparkling Envoy Kirarian. Superhero/Guardians attribute. Pay 1 gauge. When this card enters the field, search your deck for up to 1 Gate of Pardon, Forgiven, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. 3k power, 2 crits, 1k defense. It's a really common stat line in this deck. I mean, well, yeah. If you have 2 or less cards in your drop zone, this card gets 3k power, so basically 6k power attacker. So 6k is pretty good because it's going to be one of the highest powers you can get in the deck. So yeah, it can act as your wall breaker. And of course, the better function of it is to search out for your set spell. So essentially, you're running 4 copies of the monster plus the number of copies of set spell I run. So basically, I only run 3 copies because either way you can search it out with the monster. So yeah, I mean, don't want to flood your deck with useless things. Alright, so lastly for the monsters, 4 copies of Bunny Monsters, Split Sunrise, Shining Bell, whose effect I've already went through. So let's just move on to the spells. So for the spells, we have 3 copies of the set spell, Gate of Pardon, Forgiven, set spell. You may only set 1 of this card on your field. Put up to 3 cards from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck. If you do put 3 cards, gain 1 life. You may only use this ability once per turn. Next ability, if you don't have a monster in your field, there are no cards in your drop zone, put a card from your hand onto the bottom of your deck. If you do, call up to 1 Guardians monster from your deck while paying its core cost, shuffle your deck. So basically, what this card does is you get to search out your Guardians monster, any Guardians monster. That's why we're actually okay with just running 1 copy of these 2 cards. But anyway, the point is you usually want to search out your size 2 or size 2 Elixir, because That's your most aggro card. You want it to be on the field just to rush your opponent down. Yeah, and basically it's a card for a card. Basically, you have to put a card from your hand which you do not need into the bottom of the deck to swap out for a card which you actually want in this situation. So 3 copies because of the reason I just mentioned, because you can search it out with Kirarian. So 3 copies. So moving on, we run 3 copies of Sky Dragon Divinity. I don't know, man. Okay. Ancient World Dragon World dual card. It's a spell, as you can see. You may only cast this card with 10 or less cards in your drop zone. Pay 1 gauge, pay 1 life. Put 3 cards from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you do, draw 2 cards. So basically this is your other draw engine apart from your Envoy Angelus. Yeah, that's about it. Draw is important, and also it can help to return cards to the bottom of your deck if you have a lot of cards in your drop zone. Alright, 4 copies of Dragon Sky Regression. What is this? Basically Magical Goodbye for Guardians. It's counter/Guardians. Ancient World card. You mainly cast this card with Guardians on your field. Return a size 2 or less monster from your field into its owner's hand. Then you have no cards in the drop zone, gain 1 life. So Magical Goodbye with a plus. Basically you can get 1 life from it. But however, you can only cast it with Guardians on your field. So yeah, that's a downside, I guess. So 4 copies of that. So it kind of acts as a pseudo shield. So when your opponent's monster attack, you can use this to return it to their hand. So getting to the actual shields, 4 copies of Heaven's Shield. You may only cast this card during an attack on your opponent's field. During an attack on your opponent's field? Did I try to say that? On your opponent's turn. If you do not have a monster in your center and you have a Guardians on your field. So yeah. Nullify the attack and you gain 1 life. If you have no cards in your drop zone, this card cannot be nullified. So similar to Green Dragon Shield, nullify, gain 1 life. However, you have the cannot be nullified portion. Which is cool because people try to rush you harder. Like Dark Heroes, they just triple link attack and then they attempt to cancel your spell. So this is good because your spell cannot be nullified. So 4 copies of this. And also for dealing with normal threats, we just have 4 copies of the Shield of Justice will never shatter. You may only cast this card during an attack on your opponent's turn. Nullify the attack if it's not a link attack. Basically Solomon Shield clone. 4 copies. Because there's only 2 types of shields available to Guardians right now. Alright, that's it for the spells. Moving on to the items, we have 4 copies of Sky Pillar Armor, Doria Marti. Ancient World Dragon World dual card. Item with 4k power, 1 crit. No equip cost surprisingly for its overwhelmingly strong effect. If you have no cards in the drop zone, this card gets 1 crit. Basically, it's almost permanent 4k power 2 crits because it's not that hard to get your drop zone to 0 cards. You may put a card from your drop zone onto the bottom of the deck. If you do, put a top card of the deck into a gauge. So basically, it itself can reduce your drop zone as well. However, the fact that this card gives you free gauge every turn is really amazing because you're just getting free plus. But what I think if it gave life instead, it would be more fitting to the theme of the deck. But oh well, gauge is really good as well. So 4 copies of this because it's a good card, and because we need items in the deck so that we can rush down our opponent harder. So don't worry, I'll demonstrate the combo later. So moving on to the impacts. New impact monster for Dragon World. So who's this guy? Size 3 impact monster, Avalon Benedict Ray. Size 3 monster, 8k power, 2 crits, 8k defense. Words are really hard to see for some reason. Pay 3 gauge, put a monster or Gate of Pardon Forgiven from your field on the bottom of your deck. When this card attacks, put 3 Dragon Ball or Guardians from your drop zone on the bottom of your deck in any order. If you put 3 cards, return all cards on your opponent's field into his or her hand and deal damage equal to the number of cards returned to your opponent. So basically, when this card attacks you, attacks the opponent, your opponent has to, and if you can manage to return like 3 cards, which you always can because this card has a 3 gauge call cost. Yeah. So basically, how this works is when it attacks you, basically everything you have is returned. So let's say I'm fighting against Guardians guy. Yeah. So what if this card attacks me right now? So return all cards on your opponent's field into his or her hand and deal damage equal to the number of cards returned. So basically, return everything including spells and items. So if I return 5 cards, that means I take 5 damage. And plus it has a 8k power 2 crit attack. So basically potential maybe 7 damage, even higher, could be higher if they have more than one set spell. Yeah, so pretty good card. However, I think this is pretty much like a mid-game card, because in the late game, when your opponent's life gets really low, I like to finish them off with Glee Big Wave. So it's normal impact card. You mainly cast this card if your opponent has 3 life or less, your opponent does not have a monster in the center, and there are no cards in your drop zone. Pay 2 life, deal 3 damage to your opponent. The damage dealt by this card cannot be reduced. Basically, it's kind of like Gargantua Punisher, but you don't deal 4, and the impact can be nullified, even though not very many decks out there run impact nullifies. So essentially, it's Gargantua, guaranteed win. Pay 2 life, deal 3 damage to your opponent. So 2 life comes easily because you can gain life via various things. Yeah, but basically you can finish off your opponent almost for sure with this card, unless they rip out a Burn Nova or something, as compared to this. Yeah, but the impact monster is really good to call out and to your center and tank and tank some damage, because 8k they probably need a link attack or something to get through it. Yeah, so anyway, we're done with the deck profile, so let's just get on with the intense combo that we can pull off. So let's say you have the item and you have Elixir with a soul, and you have your buddy monster out there, and of course the strongest size one you can get is actually the Muriel with double attack. So assuming you have no cards in your drop zone, basically Elixir's effect triggers, so all of them gets plus 2k power, and Elixir grants all of them 1 crit as well. So basically the amount of damage you can do is insane. So let's say you have 1 card in the drop zone, because we need it for Shiny Bell's effect. So what does Shiny Bell do? So you can attack with it, it's gonna be 4k power 2 crits now, and after your attack you can return it to your deck and you get a free gauge from your deck. And then you can attack with your item. If you have no cards in your drop zone, you can attack, and you can do its crit becomes 2 plus 1 from Elixir, it's a 3 crit. So total damage now is what's the number? 5 damage. So plus Elixir's attack, that's 3 more crits, so that's 8 damage. Plus Muriel's first attack, that's 2 crits, plus its second attack, it's 12 crits to your opponent in 1 turn. And of course you can finish it off with the impacts. So you can choose either, finish it off, choose either. I mean, 7 damage potential, but it's not really guaranteed. I like to use this. I think you can use it concurrently. I mean, just call it this and then finish off with this, if you still fulfill the conditions of having no cards in the drop zone, I guess. So yeah, that's it for the deck profile, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like down below to show me some support. If you're new to my channel, subscribe if you'd like to see more Buddyfight deck profiles, card reviews and stuff like that. Yeah, be sure to add me on Facebook as well. You can talk to me on Buddyfight and ask me any questions. Yeah, until next video, goodbye, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.